What's he been up to during the meanwhilest? Well, several things actually, all of which involved not carrying on with Victoria the Automaton, who is still sitting patiently covered up with plastic because I couldn't bear her staring at me, making me feel guilty. One of the things I've done, I've been wanting to do this for a long time, is to create a steampunk gauge that actually works and obviously tells the time. So I've managed to get hold of some smaller clock movements, and then had to design a really nice background for it, steampunk with the slightly mottled effect, and I'm so pleased with this. It looks 3D but isn't. Originally, as you know, those of you who watch regularly will know that I do love to include some little red details on my machines and designs, and with these eyelets for fabric, they make the perfect window. And in fact, I was thinking, that just looks fabulous with that around it. But with these clock faces, there isn't room at all because the hands are quite close to the base, so there isn't room to fix anything. What to do? Well, I remembered that I'd got a roll of this amazing stuff, this holographic film, sticky back. I remember looking this up because I wanted to use it on the wedding invites and also the picture frames. I wanted the flame effect, and I spent ages looking it up, and it cost an absolute fortune to get flame effects and things. Then I found this, and it's for making fishing lures, or whatever they're called, the flies, the things that you make to attract fish, and you try and come up with the best version possible apparently. And that's what this is, really cheap and effective, and you can make it look exactly like fire. So what I thought I'd do is, on the laser cutter, cut out a little disc of it and photograph, in fact I scanned in the eyelet, print the eyelet on the paper, and then stick this on, and it works perfectly. I couldn't have imagined it being any better. It really looks like there's a gem or some little flames or something interesting going on in the background. My first idea, as always, was to overcomplicate the whole thing and make a big enclosure with all sorts of bits and pieces so you could screw it on the front of something. And I thought, this is ridiculous, stop overcomplicating it, go back to the original idea and have one that people can mount in a hole. So obviously I've got the Kraken kits, the Kraken gauge kits, which have been very successful, and people don't have any problem cutting holes in things, so I've settled on this. So that will sit into the back. It runs on an AAA cell battery, which is useful, so it will run for a very long time. And then I'm going to sell two options, one with these screw heads engraved on the front so that you could cut a hole and then use glue or sticky fixers or something to hold this in place, or the other option where I will drill these out so you've got 3mm holes so you can actually screw it onto something. So that is very exciting, and I'm really pleased with the look of that. It's been taken quite a long time to find a clock movement with the correct sort of hands. I still have to spray up some of them, so that's great. And now, even more exciting. How can it get any more exciting than that? Well, dear friends, technical Lego exciting. Yeah, you can't beat technical Lego. What is it he's been doing? Well, if I switch it on, it goes round and round at the right speed for videoing. Now this is something I've wanted to do for ages. Now that Etsy, and obviously my website still has videos of the different products and inventions and things, I really wanted to get a nice video of the Krakens. If you remember, it's got to be last year sometime. One of the eyes has fallen out, they weren't stuck in. I designed this Kraken and then made it from clay. In fact, no, my wife designed this Kraken from clay, and then I used amazing photogrammetry to turn it into a 3D file that I could then 3D print. There's a small version and a slightly larger version, and they look fabulous in this metallic fibre, absolutely brilliant, metallic PLA. Then I went ahead and thought, well, that's too simple, let's design one that fits on top of a pair of these, let's move that out of the way, a pair of these de facto steampunk goggles. they all seem to be the same size, regardless of any particular designs you get with spiky bits or something else. They all seem to be the same diameter. So I made one from clay, again an arduous photogrammetry session to get this to turn into a 3D print, but it works really beautifully. So there's the three options: a big flat one, or a smaller flat one, or one that sits on goggles or anything else. I'm also going to offer all of them as an unpainted version, so that you can paint your own one if you've got a particular colour scheme. So what I'm going to do now is to make some sort of circular platform on here, cover it with black fabric, which hopefully I've got or something, and then I can do some videoing of it. Oh, and then there's the very exciting TARDIS control part of it, which I'm helping my son to make. Oh, it's so nice when bits of furniture start falling to pieces on you. I've got the solution. I'm going to leave them there and just keep stepping over them each time I want to get to my tools or the pillar drill. If you can get it lined up accurately, it is brilliant. Obviously I've printed this obviously I've printed this first, and I've got a registration mark on the top right hand corner, which is just underneath the laser as we speak. I've managed to line it up perfectly. I'm so pleased, and it's cutting beautifully, cutting all the centre bits out, and it's absolutely lined up spot on. It's really nice, because otherwise I was going to have to do that with one of those circle cutters, which wasn't small enough to cut the middle holes out, etc, etc. That is perfect. So look at that. Now there's no soot. That's brilliant. I think I set it to a different setting this time, and cutting it has not burnt it or charred it. I ended up setting it to cut at 50 millimeters per second, 15 power, 15 corner power. So, and that's worked brilliantly. I'm so pleased. I'll use that setting in future. Right, now to cut out the holographic gem effect. So I'm going to not watch it because it's quite shiny. I don't want to risk the laser bouncing off and going straight into my eyeball. So it's all go today. More gauges, decorative ones, and the remaining 9, having sold one already, of the new miniature steampunk clock gauge, sitting there with the new front dials that cut out perfectly with the holographic gems on them, the lids, the fronts, the second hands, which I'm going to paint up any minute now. Oh, another top tip. If you see on Facebook an advert for an amazing spray paint, waterproof spray paint that can turn a cardboard box waterproof or anything else, don't be tempted, because, especially if your 90-year-old mother needs her shed roof repairing to stop it leaking, don't be tempted, because what you'll actually receive, probably, is this after almost a month. Far from a very large, amazing aerosol can filled with some incredible thick special waterproof paint, it's that. 30 millilitres with a little spray dispenser. I mean, what a scam. Needless to say, I have reported them to PayPal. We'll wait and see what happens. And the lovely surrounds have worked out really well, the two options. There's the engraved version, where it looks very much like it's held down with screws, but actually you can use double-sided tape or glue or whatever. And there's the option where I'll drill these out to 3mm so that you can use small brass screws, machine screws or wood screws to hold it down. Really nice. I'm very pleased about that. I was just about to start on Victoria the Automaton and realised I'd only got 2 Nempnett Thrubwell kits left. I only made the last 10 about 3 weeks ago, which is amazing. So I've started making 20 more. Why not push the boat out? I've made 3 batches of 10, I think, or 4 batches so far. It's nice to know exactly what you're doing and how and why and when. And I thought, well, let's just make 20, because as I've said many times before, once you've got equipment set up, such as the laser cutter for example, cutting out these 2mm gears, you might as well just get twice as many done. So that's exciting. I'll never understand the logic with Amazon and how they use their packaging. In the end, I ordered 13 sets of these horns. I did try some nasty Chinese rip-offs after I couldn't work out where to get the good quality ones, but they didn't work with the air pumps that I use. So I then found the company in Spain that actually make these, and as you can see, they're patented and really well made. But the company has stopped trading, sadly for the company and sadly for people who want to buy good quality horns, because the coronavirus. I suppose there's no football matches left, and that's the prime use where these are used to annoy other people watching. So I found another company, paid over twice as much for them, but I really don't want to risk not being able to get any more of these ones and then having to stop producing the Nempnett Thrubwell kit or whatever. So 39 of those, which almost, I mean, bit of a bigger box they'd have fitted, instead of which I got them in 6 boxes. Very strange. Just gluing together 2 more pieces offcuts of this because I need to make 40 lovely pine end panels. I've got just enough if I stick these 2 together, so I'm going to stick them in and I'll cut them down. The 20 air pumps have arrived, fabulous, the next day from Amazon, and I've cut out 20 lots of the wooden parts. So I've got all the end panels, the backs, not end panels, side panels, the backs and the fronts and things. Luckily I've got enough of those. It's all exciting, and I've just sorted out 20 of these from my extensive and exciting collection of turned beech knobs with spigots on that I managed to buy on eBay from a company who'd stopped selling them. So that's brilliant, because as I've said, you've got a gear like that, you need to enable it to be lined up as a cunning plan, you need a knob with a spigot on so that you can get it absolutely perfect centered while you're assembling it. Poor Victoria. One day. Getting the extra horns also means that I can finish building the heraldic clarion door horns, of which I think I've got 4. That's good. And also put the horn back on, replace the horn that I removed for one of the kits earlier, back on my Nempnett Thrubwell. I think I should do some tidying. It is getting increasingly difficult. So there's my lovely old printer that I can't bear to throw away, and the piece of furniture which is awaiting the great day of resurrection. Don't hold your breaths. But it is getting a little bit difficult to move around. Nah. This is what I mean about batch production. I've got the 20 knobs. I need to drill each one out. So, each one in turn. Now I was centre drilling them before, but I've got a lovely sharp 4.1mm drill bit. So I'll put that right back into the chuck so it can't wibble wobble around, and then never go near it till it stops. There we are. I'll get this proper brass screw and then just spin it. That's perfect, that's completely centered. Brilliant. That's it, got that. And then you get all these lovely pretty little leftovers that I don't actually need, as with all these things, hence the, I think it's 4 boxes I've got now. It'd be lovely to use them, but other than my children sometimes using them to make pieces of artwork and stuff, I really don't have any use for them. Seems a shame to take them off to the recycling, but I'm not able to do that. It's like all my Christmases have come at once. All the plumbing fittings. Then another 3. Fantastic, with screws and bits and pieces. It is so exciting. Right down to my roll of abrasive paper, which I keep meaning to get because I've been tearing up for the kit separate bits of paper, and I need, for this part of it, the wood part, to have some abrasive paper, just so people can tidy up the edges if they need to. The clock movements have arrived. Fantastic. Just have to wait for so long, but I found a really good supplier, and these are the ones, very good quality ones, and they've got a trigger inside them so that the Nempnett Thrubwell knows when an hour is up or however long you've set it for. Carrying on drilling, and I remembered I had this problem last time. Most of them are absolutely spot on, really centered perfectly, but here's one that isn't. I set it in the lathe, got the drill going through slowly, and it ends up being off-centered. You can see it's nearer this side than that, only by probably 0.5 millimeter, but if it's not perfect, it's not going to do. I'm fed up with that. I've now got 4 of these. I've done about 15 and 4 of them haven't turned out right. So I think what it is, as the drill goes through, there's wobble on it. Not much, and because the knobs are made of beech and the end grain, it won't take much just to throw the drill slightly off centre. So I've come up with plan B. Here's plan B. Another use for the V-blocks. I haven't set it up yet, but the idea is, because these two sides turned bits are the same diameter, if I clamp that in there or hold it in there, I know that that's going to be horizontal, vertical and everything else. So if I then get all this clamped down, 4.1 millimeter drill bit in the pillar drill, it means that rather than having to go through all of this to reach the important bit, which is just there, where the gear's going to be glued on, I just need to go through that much, and then the rest of it doesn't really matter at all. That's the important bit. I will set this up and give it a go. Good thing about setting this sort of jig up is, and here's one I prepared earlier that's correct. Put a 4.1 millimeter drill bit in it, set it flat, and then I know that the V-block will be in the same place. I can clamp it down and give it a go. Finally, it works, and it works a treat. It's perfect. Oh, that should remind me, with a bit of luck. In the past I've used the bench saw, circular saw thing with its guide, right angle guide, to cut these lengths up perfectly. But I've only just got enough wood to cut these without too much waste where the blade goes. Is it a kerf? I can't remember now. Ridiculous, I used to teach it all the time. The circular saw, bench saw, has a kerf, I'll keep saying that, just check it's right, of 4 millimeters. And I've calculated this wood is only long enough to get 10 of these out if I use a thinner blade. So hence the fact I'm using the bandsaw with a lovely jig, as always. Once you set it up, and regardless of measurements and things, actually measuring the finished piece of work to allow for tolerances and stuff, it's brilliant. And this is nice because it's right angles. I know it is because I've set it. I've got a block of wood with a G-clamp there, and I know therefore it's exactly 117 millimeters, and then it's really enjoyable to cut them. Here's the bit of wood that I was sticking together from 2 strips earlier. You just cannot see the join. PVA is brilliant. I've roughly sanded the front and back, and I've cut it to the right width on the bench saw. So now I'm going to cut it into separate strips onto the bandsaw. And then we use another jig to drill the pilot holes for the screws. Lots of people wouldn't bother putting pilot holes, but it just makes it that little bit more enjoyable to make because they guide the screw in the right place. So I thought it was worth doing. 2 millimeters. Now for the other side of the jig. Brilliant. All you do, line it up with the middle of the bit and clamp it down, set the depth, you don't want to drill too deep, and that's it, it's set up. And then that drills a rebate for the heads of the M10 screws or bolts that hold one of the Munson rings on. Simple as that. And there you have it. I'll drill all these out and then I'll drill the middle bit, the remaining bit, to 10.5mm for the actual bolts themselves. I keep them in blocks that they were cut in, so I've got, there's the 5 rebaited on top of that. I'm just going to keep them together because there are sometimes some differences. You can see this pile is slightly lower. It's lower by 5mm because this is the pile that I made from 2 pieces glued together, and I've just sanded the front and back, so it's 0.5mm less on each piece, which I'm not going to worry too much about. I've just realised, now I've got all these pieces of wood cut out and all these other bits and pieces, I can put the first part of the kit together, the wooden part, with the rubber band and all the other little bits and pieces and abrasive paper. Now the abrasive paper's arrived. Fantastic, I'll get on and do that. And another exciting package, this time from Orbital Fasteners. No affiliation, I don't know why I say that, but other people seem to. I don't want to feel left out. Very good, very reasonable for some things. Again, it's a case of shopping around. I get my fasteners from Orbital Fasteners and K-Fast, I think, which is who have got a shop on eBay. They're both in the UK, but obviously they'll be the equivalent. That's good. Replacement M4 nuts, replacement M4 brass washers. Ooh, M3 dome nuts. Fantastic. These have got funny little ridges along, which is quite attractive. The proper thick ones, grade A or something or other. Brilliant. Here are the M10 12mm long bolts that I used to hold the Munson rings on. I could use brass, but it's so expensive, the brass support for the Munson ring, but it's about 4 or 5 times more expensive than one zinc plated nut bolt. Same with the M4 nuts here. The reason that you use steel ones on the inside that you don't see is just simply because the brass ones are so expensive, and I've got to try and keep costs down for parts so that the overall cost of the kit can be as low as possible. I've now got everything on here, 38 parts in total. I need to do the fixings kit. So there's 2 parts of the kit I can put together. That's brilliant. Yeah, this is the kit. Yeah, it took ages to count this and actually get the list right. I kept missing bits off and getting them wrong, hence all these scribbled notes and things. But that is what you get. 38 parts in the fixings kit. Nothing but the best. Another really enjoyable part of putting the kits together. There are my instructions. So I know it's got to be 16 pieces, and I arrange each lot like that so I can count them in and check that I've got one of each thing necessary. I've got all the other spare parts really lined up. So exciting. I'll just put them into one of the bubble wrap plastic bags, seal it up. Bob's your uncle. And then there's one extra new piece of space for some more stuff. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully see you next time.